A very, very warm welcome to you, Mansi. It is really my pleasure to host you on Phenomenal Founder Conversations. This is a product that we are focusing on under the Live from Thrive umbrella. Thrive, for those of you who are new to this, is an organization that facilitates women to women mentoring relationships. And under the Live from Thrive banner, we bring to you many different conversations that are important for women, and I would say also for men, to listen into, to help you to increase awareness and also give you opportunities to ask questions. So we're hoping that this gets eventually published on Facebook Live. Usually we go live, but there seems to be some technical issue. So again, a warm welcome to you, Mansi. For those of you who are new to Mansi, she is a lawyer who is passionate about women's rights and gender equality. Mansi completed her education, her law education from Jindal Global Law School in Delhi, and she graduated at the top of her class. After practicing for 2 years in the Hyderabad High Court, she has assisted Honorable Justice D.Y. Chandrachud in the Supreme Court on 3 landmark judgments. The Section 377, which I think was so much in the media because it was a long overdue decriminalization of homosexuality in India, and also the Sabrimala temple and adultery. A very, very warm welcome to you, Mansi. I'd love to hear from you a little bit more about, about yourself and also about these judgments.
Thank you so much, Shivangi. I'm so happy to be here. And I love what you're doing with this entire, Phenomenal Founders and Thrive with Life. I think it's a great initiative. And to tell you a little bit about myself, I think you have pretty much covered all the highlights of my life, which I would have, So that's been my journey from a law student to a lawyer, and discovering my passion for women's rights and human rights in general. So what I would like to tell you about is the golden opportunity that I had in 2018 to work in the Supreme Court and assist Justice Chandrachud on 3 of those very important judgments which you mentioned, because all these 3 judgments in some way or the other, they enhanced women's rights in India, women's rights as well as human rights, because Section 377 decriminalized homosexuality in India. And it was something which was long overdue, as you said, and it has been celebrated not just in India, but all over the world. And then the Sabrimala temple case, very interestingly, for those who may not know, Sabrimala temple is a very ancient and well-known temple in India, one of the oldest. So it was, women were not allowed to enter this temple, the sanctum sanctorium of the temple, because of religious beliefs associated with the temple. So in 2018, the Supreme Court passed a judgment which said that, women will now be allowed to enter the temple, because denying them entry discriminates against them on the basis of gender and also does not allow them to express their religion. So that was an interesting judgment. And the third one, which was adultery. So adultery was earlier a crime in India, and the provision which made adultery a crime was a British era provision which treated women like property, and women were considered to be the property of the person of the man whom she married. So now that this provision has been struck down by the Supreme Court, I think it's an important liberation for women to, in a way, not to be treated as property by the law, and also by making adultery a civil issue rather than making it a criminal issue. So these were some very landmark and interesting judgments that, I got to experience working on.
Amazing, Mansi. I mean, what sort of amazing judgments that you worked on at such a young age, really something to be proud of. Today, we're going to talk a lot about, Pink Legal, pinklegal.in. I love the name, by the way. And your vision, I would say, to create an entity, a website or a portal like that, to really bring all the information. I mean, as you know, and not just in India, probably this is a global phenomena. I think that everything that's got to do with legalities, as a normal human being, we sort of try to stay away from it, because we don't understand enough about what is happening. And then often, and I think this is probably true more of women, when we find ourselves on the receiving end of disrespect, and this can be in many different forms, right? And to many great extents. I was speaking, on the PFC, on the founder conversations, with somebody, with a woman called Tamar from Israel, who's into domestic violence, right? And she's created an organization that is helping women in Israel against domestic violence. I mean, there are so many different forms in which the legal rights of women can get impacted, right? So I'd love to know a little bit about, your journey around, what made you start such a portal? What is the story behind it? Usually when there is anything that you manifest in the world, like you have done with this portal, there is usually a good reason behind it, right? What is it that made you create Pink Legal, Manasi?
So, Shivangi, as I told you, I was always passionate about women's rights and gender equality ever since law school. But what really drove, so, I had this idea that I want to do something, I want to use my legal knowledge and bridge this big gap that is there between the laws and common people, as you were saying. But what really pushed me to do it was in 2017, just a few days before my 25th birthday, I was driving home from work at night in my city and in the city center. And my car and another car met with a small collision. And then these two boys, I was alone and there was nobody around. And two boys came out of that car and then they started harassing me. They tried to make me get down from the car, and they were banging on the windows and they were very aggressive. So it was a very intimidating situation for me. But luckily I got away from that situation by, just trying to stay strong. And I reached home safe. But the next day I decided that I'm going to use my position as a lawyer. I'm not going to keep quiet about it, and I'm going to raise my voice against it. So I went to the police station. I filed an FIR against them. And being in the police station, that was my first time being in the police station. So I was as clueless as anybody else. But because I know the laws, I felt a lot more confident. And I think the police also took me much more seriously. So that is when I realized how daunting a process it can be for any woman to, even like access her rights in case she's in any kind of trouble, to go to the police station or to approach the court, because it's a very, very intimidating process. It was for me as well, so I could just imagine how much it would be for somebody else. So that is why I decided to start a platform using technology to bring all the legal knowledge that I and all of us know as lawyers to common people, so that they can understand the laws, they can understand all their basic rights that they need to know on a day-to-day, basis, and empower them with the knowledge of their legal rights. So, they know how to file a police complaint, they know what is, when they are being harassed, what is harassment, etc. So it's just basically to explain everything about their legal rights.
Yeah. No, and I thanks for sharing that story, right? I think that the first time is always the scariest time, and I must congratulate you that the first time that this happened to you, you took action. Because I think if you don't take action the first time something unexpected happens to you, then life takes over. There's always so much to do. I mean, you've been working on all of those landmark judgments at the Supreme Court. I mean, it would be probably quite easy for you to say, oh my God, my life is so busy, I don't want to take on yet another project, right? But probably as compared to all the work that you and maybe other people do on these landmark judgments, you probably have created a platform now that is going to support many, many women and just human beings, I think, in this context in India, that you will never even know, right? You will probably not even know who's using your platform, to what extent, and how they're benefiting from it. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes, if you don't mind, for you to walk us through your platform. You can maybe share your screen, just to orient us a little bit around how to find the information on your platform. Because I have seen your platform, it is full of rich resources, but I think this is a unique opportunity for us and of course the Thrive community and beyond to get to know how to best use this platform that you have created.
Sure, I'll be happy to share my screen, Shivangi. Let me just, is my screen visible to everybody now?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So I'll just quickly take everybody through the platform and explain what it's about and how they can navigate this platform. Although the way we have designed it, we've tried to make it very simple and easy to understand. Yeah. So here it just explains how Pink Legal works, where we explain all the women related rights. And the most important part of this platform is this section, which is Know Your Rights, where we have divided women's rights into different areas so that it's easy for people to navigate. Now, our most visited one is this, which is violence at home, which, so it's usually domestic violence. So now if you have, so you can just either browse through this on top or through the homepage, and then you can see all the different topics and subtopics that we cover under each topic. So now, so for example, we've come to violence at home. So then under violence at home, again, you have different kinds of rights which you can access against violence at home. For example, you have domestic violence, or you have dowry harassment, which is different from domestic violence. Then you also have a section on taking action against violence at home, where we explain what are your legal options. For example, you can file a police complaint. Your option number 2 would be to file a court case. And we also explain, you know, in detail about what is better, why should you file, what will the police do. So we have basically tried to think of all the questions that a woman would have with respect to any kind of topic or any kind of, you know, area. And we've covered all those questions with very, very easy solutions. So, you know, for example, can I directly file a court case without a police complaint? So this, I would assume, would be a very commonly, you know, asked question. So we have covered like a lot of simple questions. Then, as I was telling you, my experience about filing a police complaint, where I didn't know what it was. So I have specially added this section where I explain everything about a police complaint, who can file, where should you file, etc. And in the end, we have also added, you know, a sample police complaint to make it easy for everybody to understand. So if anybody anywhere in India wants to file a police complaint, they can simply look at our sample. We have explained everything, given the format. All you have to do is fill in your details. For example, introduction of yourself, if you are the victim, or if you're filing on behalf of the victim. So we have tried to make all the resources that a woman needs available on Pink Legal. And then we also have quick guides where if you have just like, you know, if you don't have much time and you want to quickly know your legal rights, 5 points for every married woman. So you should know what are your 5 topmost rights for a married woman in India. So these are some of the things that we have tried to cover on Pink Legal. And then I would also like to take you to our contact us page, which is also a very, you know, widely used page, where number 1 is you can join the Pink Legal Tribe. And I would really highly recommend all of you to join the Pink Legal Tribe. So it's going to be a community of like, you know, we want to create a community of empowered women on Pink Legal, as well as we send you our fortnightly newsletters. So, you know, you can stay updated with whatever is the latest in law. And then if you have a legal query, please submit it over here, because a lot of people, you know, they go through the website, but they still have like a personalized legal query, which applies just to their situation. So then you can use this form to submit your legal query. So, you know, that's pretty much what I wanted to introduce. And then it's very easy to navigate. So I'm sure everybody can navigate it.
That's great. I mean, yes, you've really made it very, very user-friendly. I'm just wondering, you know, to create, I mean, I don't know how many pages and, you know, words of content you have on that website. It seems very comprehensive. What were your challenges to put all this together? Because I was just trying to put myself in your shoes, and I was thinking of my experience when I used to live back in India. This is more than 2 decades back, right? But I think that usually I heard that lawyers are extremely reluctant to give any sort of generic information, right? Because everything sort of from a lawyer's point of view, and I have a few friends and relatives who are, you know, practicing law, they always say it depends, because everything is sort of, you know, linked to what is the specific situation. I mean, law, or let's say legal advice, is so specific. How did you manage to actually make all of this so generically available, and like you rightly said, you know, in very easy language that people can use it, that people could do something with it? How did you address that challenge, Manasi?
So how we address it is, see, the rights of any person remain the same because you have the law. So everybody has the same rights under the law. So the way the rights will apply to you will depend on your situation. But what we have done is, the first step is women need to know what are their legal rights.
Yeah.
All this is general information, you know, it's not related to, it doesn't depend like whether it's Mansi or Shivangi, we will have the same rights irrespective of, you know, our situation.
Yeah.
So that is what we have tried to capture on Pink Legal. And then beyond that, as I was showing you, we have that legal query form. So beyond that, if somebody has a specific situation where they feel like, they want to ask us a question, we try to help them out as much as possible from, through remote correspondence. And then if we feel like, maybe they need a lawyer, so we also, I forgot to show you that form, but on the same page, if you scroll down, we have a form for I need a lawyer, which a lot
Oh,
of
yes,
women
I
have
did
also.
see that on your contact us form, right? So it's not
Yeah,
just about submit a legal query. You
yeah,
will also help women. Maybe you can show that, Mansi, because I actually thought out of the many different things, that is one of the most important things. Do you
right.
really work with like female lawyers necessarily on your platform? So if we go to contact us and you go to the need a lawyer piece, what is the
Yeah.
process that works? So if let's say I click there, then
Hmm.
you are asking me of which city you are in, etc., right, to get a lawyer. Because I think the step to get a lawyer is itself very daunting for women, just to get a
Exactly.
lawyer. And I think a lot of women try to get advice from relatives and friends who are not qualified to offer them advice, right? So
Hmm.
submitting a query probably is a bit easier, but getting a lawyer is a big step. So I'm just wondering, how do you help, and in your experience, have you had a lot of requests to get lawyers from your platform?
So how we help them is we have a network. So just next to the need a lawyer, you see a lawyer sign up
Yeah,
form as well.
yeah,
So, we encourage lawyers to sign up, whoever works in this field and whoever would want to offer their services. And we have received a phenomenal response from lawyers as well,
yeah.
which let me to understand that, there are lawyers out there who want to do good work as well, apart from the commercial work. And maybe they just needed a resource where they could come and offer this help. So we have these empaneled lawyers with us, and then when somebody submits the form, then we match the city and the requirement to the lawyer, and then we connect them to that.
Yeah.
So right now, because of the lockdown, obviously courts are shut, which is why that is on hold. But the minute the courts open again, we will be connecting them to the lawyers. And then from there, the lawyers take it forward. And then we also have a provision for pro bono. If somebody needs pro bono legal help, we also have that provision. But to ensure that, they are genuine pro bono cases, we also ask them to show us documentation to
Yeah,
prove that.
sure, sure. I saw that, but that's fabulous that you offer pro bono. I mean, your statement around courts are shut has created the question in my mind. You know, I mean, law, or let's say legal help, cannot really stop, right? I mean, has law, or the legal profession also adjusted to this virtual work? Is there law or lawyer, let's say, judgments or lawyer work being done virtually at the moment?
There is virtual work being done, but the courts are only taking the most urgent and important cases. So, something which would require immediate action, maybe like a bail application or things like that. Or if something is going to, or I mean, it depends on court to court, what are the urgent cases that they take up. But the number of cases that are coming up for hearing are very less. So
Hmm.
courts have adopted to virtual hearing, and they're trying to make it as seamless as possible. But of course, at the end of the day, they are also human beings who are working in the courts, and who are, judges are also humans, the lawyers are humans. So many of the court staff have contracted COVID, and the situation is quite bad for them as well, how much ever they are trying to keep the legal services available.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think they are trying the best that they can in the circumstances.
Yeah, because I mean, I read that the lockdown has dramatically increased, for example, the whole notion of domestic violence, right? So
Yeah.
domestic violence has increased exponentially during the lockdown. And I'm wondering, how does the legal system support? And I mean, I wouldn't say that domestic violence is all against women, but it's mainly against women, right? Is there any provision? Is there any support given by the Indian legal system to help these women who have now newly become victims of domestic violence? I think domestic violence was always and is always been prevalent in India, but now with the huge increase, is there any support mechanism that has been offered by the government or by the legal system?
So the National Commission for Women has come up with a helpline, like a national helpline for domestic violence victims to report any incidents. And to check out the effectiveness, I sent a call or a WhatsApp message to them and actually I didn't get a response from them, so maybe they are overworked or under resourced. And I don't know on ground how much they're helping. Legally the laws and the rights remain the same, so they can go to the police station immediately, the nearest police station, to file a complaint, and which is what we advise most women, because that is the fastest way in India. You go to the police station, the police come to your house, or they call the husband to the police station, and it's a bit of, it's like a threat to the husband as well, right? Because nobody wants to be put in jail. So that happens. Then filing a court case is not possible right now. So the only solution right now, unfortunately, is to go to the police station. And I had a couple of cases where I was trying to guide them on going to the police station and all of that. So what generally happens is, in matrimonial issues, the police believe that today they come and file a complaint, but tomorrow they want to withdraw the complaint because they want to settle the issue. So they hesitate to lodge an FIR. They just call the parties to the police station, and they try to get the settlement done, or they warn the husband, or they tell him that don't do this again, give us an undertaking that you won't do this again. And then it's just on good faith that you have to survive, and if something comes up again, you can go to the police station again. So unfortunately, although we have very strong laws for women in India, on ground reality is quite different, because we don't have the resources to execute the laws, to implement the laws.
Yeah. I mean, what amazed me the most is, and I got a bit more interested into this whole, issue of domestic violence, is that it's very prevalent also in highly educated society. For me, that was the most interesting thing, because these women are financially independent, because I used to maybe wrongly think that financial dependence, or lack of independence, is what keeps women quiet about the domestic violence issues. But it seems there are too many other, cultural, societal, etc. challenges that keep women in sort of locked. Like you said, domestic violence is probably far more complex than other kinds of violence that are mitigated on women, because usually coming from somebody legally wedded to, or in-laws, etc., I think it becomes very complex. And like you rightly said, if the stance of, let's say, even a police person would be that this doesn't need an FIR and let's try to resolve it, and then the woman has to go into that same house, I don't know how comfortable they're going to feel to even lodge a police complaint, right? So it's sort of a catch-22 situation. I can imagine that it's not easy at all. We have had a few women, many thrivers actually joining on this Zoom call, and I would recommend any questions that you have, please put them in chat as I continue to speak to Manasi in the next few minutes. One of the things I wanted to explore with you, Manasi, is how do you think the society and the Indian culture is making it difficult for women in India to actually take benefit of the legal support mechanisms, and what needs to change in the system on the one hand, but what can a woman do to maybe free herself from some of these beliefs and value systems, right? Especially, as I said, I can understand if you are financially dependent on your husband, it might be much more difficult. But if you're independent, and it seems that there is in terms of numbers, I think I read some weird statistics, like very high numbers of financially independent women who might still be, economically independent, I would say, who might tolerate not necessarily violence like physical violence, but maybe emotional abuse, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, from your point of view and from a legal point of view, what advice would you give women to live the sort of lives that they would like to live, right? To live the sort of lives where they are respected and where they can thrive.
So, it reminds me of an interesting incident. So I was attending a conference, and one of the lawyers over there, she said that what her mentor advised her when she was nervous, he told her, think like a white male. Why are you nervous? A white male would, be confident just because he is a white male. So I would like to apply that same allegory over here, and maybe advise women to think like a man. Don't think of yourself as a woman, because when you think of yourself as a woman, you think of yourself as somebody who has to compromise, who has to put up with things, who doesn't, who has to even if you want to do a career, you have to still play a major part in taking care of the household, so your career has to be compromised for that. But if you think of like how a man would lead his life, he will always come first in his life, he will always do his career and be financially independent, he will be the decision maker in his life and for the rest of the family. So I would say think like that, and it will immediately help you understand how you can become independent. Just note down wherever you feel restricted just because you're a woman, and then just compare it to your male counterpart and see that he is not restricted in the same situation at all. So try to break free from those shackles, because since childhood women are taught to always like compromise and give up themselves for the rest of the family, so they don't have like that individuality, and because of that they don't end up having like a very strong opinion or a strong decision making power or financial independence. So all of these things will automatically flow the minute you start thinking like an independent person and break out of these patriarchal shackles.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's so systemic, isn't it? I mean, it's sort of, it's very insidious because it's deep rooted. And the messaging that we got as women, and I grew up in India, as you know, the messaging is very subtle, right? It's not something that is prominent. I know that in some families, some societies, and some cultures within India, some of those, that messaging was sort of in the face, right? But for a lot of us, and I can imagine a lot of the thrivers, maybe we are also victim. We are also on the receiving end of this messaging, but probably very subtle, right? And I think even outside of India, this is not necessarily an Indian challenge, because I really feel that women, we face this double bind, right? We get all of this messaging that what is sort of the image of femininity is really around, if you're feminine, you are nurturing, you are caring, you are this person. So we have all of these ideals, and then, and this is interesting because from a Thrive point of view, where we are supporting women in the professional setting, suddenly they are told to be the best negotiators, the best salespeople, and then prove how you are performing the best possible way. Now imagine you have all of this messaging, which is sort of in your DNA now, and then you have to be sort of, I mean, you called it like a man, but like an independent person in this setting, whereas all the messaging that you've got is going against that, right? So that's very fascinating, and thanks for that advice. I have another question here from one of the attendees, Lalita, and she's asking, do you feel that Indian women are getting more confident to take legal recourse when it comes to resolving marital issues or sexual harassment, etc.? Because of probably what's there, I mean, at least in the media narrative, we see increase in awareness of these things as compared to even 5 or 10 years back, right? Do you feel that this has now improved or increased, taking legal recourse? Are more women doing that?
I think there are, so we are on the right path, but it's very, very small percentage of women. So the growth rate of the number of women who are taking recourse to legal rights is still very, very low compared to how much it should be. Because to tell you one shocking thing, I mean, when I started Pink Legal, I thought there would be like, people would be curious about sexual harassment because that is very common in India. So I thought that would be the most visited topic, but it is domestic violence hands down. And I was shocked to see that almost like 60% of my traffic is about domestic violence. All the questions are about domestic violence. So for the number of women who are suffering, the number of women who are taking action, the scales are very imbalanced. So if I have about 200 people, 200 women asking me, legal queries about domestic violence, I have only 5 women asking me for a lawyer. And out of those 5 women, maybe only 1 woman will actually go and file a case.
Wow.
So it really trickles down. So I think even though they are taking steps, it's not big enough.
Wow, that is, I mean, those are really shocking numbers. And like you, I would have also imagined that sexual harassment is a bigger challenge in India than domestic violence. To be honest with you, though, we have recently launched at Thrive a program called She Thrives, which is our first group mentoring offering. And we offered it complimentary to all our people, right? And we said this is for women who have been impacted by COVID. Surprisingly, a lot of the applicants are actually speaking about domestic violence. Because we've been in the field of mentoring and professionally helping, of course, holistic mentoring, but supporting women to be better professionally. But it seems that domestic violence, especially from the applicants within India, is still sort of, raising its ugly head wherever there is an opportunity. And I mean, some of those applications can really be very touching, because you realize it's like a cry for help. And though I mean, we will have a panel on domestic violence, but that was not our topic, right? Our topic was helping women who have lost their job to find another gainful profession. I mean, we're thinking professionally, and it seems that domestic violence is a disease in India, right? It's something that is not spoken about as much as it should be. And there is, I mean, like you rightly said, there might be these helplines, etc. But like you're with your own experience, doesn't mean that a helpline will resolve an issue. And I always feel that sometimes when you hear so much about something, you become jaded to it, right? So I don't even know if people who work in these helping professions are really, have the sort of tools, processes, empathy to deal with each and every woman, because it seems there are not hundreds, but thousands and thousands of women who are having this challenge. I have another question for you, Mansi, which is around, what do you think the legal course of action should be? How early, is this something, the knowledge around your legal rights, should this be introduced in schools? And especially, what would you recommend for young women who experience incidents while being in school? I've also seen on Pink Legal, the whole hullabaloo we had over the boys' locker case, right? What do you think is behind this sort of thing in India? And I mean, there's always a new case that keeps popping up. And now, of course, with the new forms of media, in this case, Instagram. But what would support, and I'm also thinking about, adding to this question from a parent point of view, right? I'm just guessing that if these are young adults, 13 to 17-year-olds propagating that sort of behavior that we've read about, which was completely shocking, what can parents do? What can parents do? Because I think that a lot of these people, both boys and girls involved in this, came from very well-to-do families, and I am sure that their parents who held all of these prestigious roles in government or in corporate probably were equally shocked with what has happened. So I just wanted to have your view on it, both a legal and maybe also a personal view on it.
I completely agree with you. I definitely think that legal rights or education about legal rights should be introduced to people at the school level itself, because just the way you are taught history, geography, Pythagoras theorem, which you may not even use once in your life, but what is more important for you to know is how to protect yourself on a day-to-day basis, right? So I think, I don't know why people haven't, thought about introducing legal rights as a subject in school, the relevant legal rights, of course. And if, for example, an incident like boys' locker room could probably be avoided if you had this, if you had this education in school itself, because then the girls will be aware of what their legal rights are. And similarly, the boys will be aware of what they should not do in this, considering the boys' locker room situation. The boys would have known that sharing something like this or, exchanging such messages would be illegal, and there could be legal action against them for that. So that would serve as a deterrent against them, engaging in this sort of communication. And similarly, the girls, the minute they get to know that something like this is happening, they're already aware and empowered enough to know that, okay, you have a legal right against this. This is your recourse. You can approach these platforms for it. So, they feel much more like enabled to take action against anything that comes their way, as compared to suddenly, oh my God, this has happened. Now, what do we do? Is it even illegal? Like, we don't even know. In fact, when we released that article about the laws about boys' locker room, everybody was talking about the moral wrong, but we said it's a legal wrong as well as a moral wrong. And so many people messaged us telling us that, oh, we didn't even know that there are so many laws which make these things illegal, right? So I'm sure the girls themselves didn't know that it's an illegal act, that what has happened to them. Yeah. So if they have this knowledge, they can definitely be more empowered.
Yeah, I mean, from a Pink Legal point of view, I'm guessing, of course, Pink Legal is, meant for adults to go and review. But I also saw you had something called a student squad, right? I mean, are you in some way also through this portal trying to educate younger students?
Yeah, so our student squad is, we have student representatives from a lot of like top colleges in India who are enthusiastic about gender rights. And through them, we tap into the network of, students so that we can reach out to more students and help explain to them what their legal rights are. So in fact, we were thinking of, conducting a webinar for kids from the age of like 16 to maybe like 22, 24, to tell them what their legal rights are in various spheres, like from date rape to like sexual harassment at workplace because they go for internships, to cyberbullying. So we have been pondering with this idea of doing a webinar with focused discussions. I would like to know, in fact, if you think it's like something which people would want to.
I mean, at Thrive, of course, we have professional women who have a minimum, the mentees have a minimum of 5 years work ex. The mentors are typically 15, 20 years of work ex, right? So we're not necessarily working directly with students, but again, speaking to lots of friends and their kids, I mean, I think something like that would be phenomenal, right? I think that, and I don't know, because I'm pretty sure that this webinar is going to be watched by Thrivers and others, right? But I'm thinking if you are speaking to those students as a parent, I would love, and I know if I share that in my women's groups or general WhatsApp groups, they will share it, because I think that this is something really needed. And as you rightly said, you really need to speak to those people in that age group about their questions, right? Because I think I mean, as Thrivers, and I'm asking you the questions that I'm getting there, we have a different point of view. We'll probably not have the same questions, and we'll have a different level of knowledge, awareness, and consciousness, right? So our questions come from a very different space than a 14-year-old would. So yes, I would definitely recommend that, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a popular one, both to attend and to pass on that knowledge and
I
information.
mean, for parents to encourage their children to attend it, because it's useful for everybody. Yeah.
Two more questions came through. Does Pink Legal also support the less digitally educated, right? What do you do in that space? Because probably the needs of that group will likely be very high and the awareness is very low. Have you done anything beyond, and we know that India is digitally divided, as we say, and yes, probably it's still the highest user of smartphones, etc. But digital awareness and usage of digital information beyond, let's say, the day-to-day, internet and looking at, more entertainment sources is probably not that high. Do you do anything in that respect, Mansi?
So we are planning to do that. Number one, we're planning to translate Pink Legal into Hindi and then going for the other regional languages. So that process it's under process. And secondly, we're also partnering up with a few organizations who work with rural women. And, through them, we can take Pink Legal to the rural women, because we alone cannot do it, because we have our own, limitations. But through partnerships, we try to do as much as possible and take it out there to even the digitally and less literate women.
Right. Another question which is slightly different is, are there fast track courts that actually help to expedite the judicial process? And a linked question to that is, are there dedicated fast track courts for women? And of course we are interested in that. Are there courts that would actually look at saying, okay, a lot of these cases are happening with this gender, and we want to focus on women particularly? Does something like this exist?
So there are fast track courts in India, but you don't have a fast track court which is dedicated exclusively to women. The fast track courts are dedicated to laws. So you have one for rape. So this was implemented after the Nirbhaya case. They started with the fast track courts for rape. But I attended a conference where Nirbhaya's mother was speaking, and she told us the ground reality of this fast track court, which was, I think, in the north. So the fast track court didn't have a judge for about 3 months for a case as sensational as Nirbhaya's case, which the whole country is tracking. So when that is the situation for this case, I don't know what the situation is for cases which haven't received so much media attention. So on paper we have everything in India, but the ground reality you can only find out when you actually go there and see the situation.
Thank you so much, Mansi. This has been so useful. As I said, we have, of course, a lot of audience which has watched it live and which will also watch it afterwards on Facebook Live. We're very interested. There's also a question from the audience. How can some of us, me included, by the way, based outside of India, support this initiative, right? I mean, of course, Pink Legal, I know that it focuses on the legal cases in India, right? But how can we support you? And I can ask this question also on the basis of the growing and strengthening Thrive community, but generally as women and as human beings, right? How can we support? Because everything that you have said is so inspirational. And I find it so amazing that you are doing all of this, Mansi, at such a young age. It's very, very inspirational.
Thank you, Shivangi. So I would request your support in two ways. One is to share and spread the word about Pink Legal as much as possible, for all the viewers and users into your networks, so that it can help women that you know. Because we also have a lot of women from US, UK, and other countries who visit Pink Legal, because you are still governed by some rights in India. For example, property rights. If you have property in India, you will be governed by Indian laws. So it's important for them to know, Indian rights as well. Or maybe at some point they will come back, or they'll have family in India. So, it's relevant to every Indian out there. And secondly, we also do something called Pink Legal Talks, where, we conduct webinars or workshops with corporates and organizations, where we speak to their employees about different rights. It depends on what the organization wants us to talk about, any topic. So since the Thrive community is full of working women who are really, empowered, I would really appreciate if, you could connect me with corporates, or to help me, do the Pink Legal Talks, because that helps Pink Legal become a more sustainable organization and helps us to further our work. So that is
this is something that we could definitely imagine doing, right? I think this is something, and maybe Asha, we're going to put that as an appeal also on the summary of this, because I think that's very concrete, and that's something that that we can, I mean, besides spreading the word, which I think is a softer and easier thing to do. I think that we'll try and see if personally, I mean, everybody who's currently on Zoom, maybe connect Mansi. Mansi, maybe you can tell us, I think on your website you will have your email.
We have a page for Pink Legal Talks where we have the email ID also. Where,
okay, so we can go to Pink Legal Talks and maybe connect Mansi with one person in a corporate, a decision maker that we know, who could be speaking, who could invite Mansi and the Pink Legal team to speak to the laws. I mean, I think there are so many women. I mean, I come from the HR community, as you know, in India because of TISS background. And I think I could very well imagine that I'll drop a note to my, to the alumni network that I have in my college. And I can imagine that there are enough CHROs there who might be interested to bring you in for a talk. So that's very concrete, and thank you very much for that. I'm getting a lot of messages saying thank you so much, great initiative, extremely informative session. Thanks for all your specific, clear answers, Mansi. And yes, we will keep in touch. I think this is the first conversation we're having with Pink Legal, but I do feel that the vision of these two organizations is very aligned, and I think we can really see how we can support each other, as we grow and try and create impact and help more and more women. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you so much, everybody. It was my pleasure.
Okay, take care. Bye for now.
Bye.